Hello and welcome to the recording for week 3 for Computer Fundamentals B. And week 3, as you can see, goes from January 21st to January 27th. And week 3 is the continuation of week 2 work. So week 3, as you can see, is continuation of Unit 6. And in week 3, you'll watch the Class Connect write-up. Let me get this fixed. I wonder why that showed up that way. Make it so you can read it a little bit better. So I'll just let me organize these a little bit, make it easier for you. Okay, so let's go back to that. So here we are again, week 3. You can see that for week 3, you'll watch this recording, which you're doing now, then you'll answer the Class Connect write-up questions. You'll go through section 5 that talks more about charting using spreadsheets. And then you'll do project 3, and project 3 is a continuation of project 2 that you did previously. Thursday, you'll look at section 6, talks about different types of tools. Then you'll review for the exam and the exam preview I have, and then you'll do the Unit 6 exam. So really there's not a lot of work for week 3 since it's just the second part of Unit 6. So hopefully you have the week 2 work completed and the week 1 work completed, and you're well on your way to doing well in the class. And one thing I want to remind you of is right up here in Doc Sharing. When I click that, here's the schedule, the course schedule, so you can always access that in Doc Sharing. Now there's nothing else that has come up overall for the class except that some students, you're not answering the complete questions on the write-ups. Some of the write-ups have like 1 or 2 parts to them. Make sure you answer the whole question on the write-ups. All right, let's go ahead right on down here, and here we are in, this is Unit 6, and Unit 6, there's section 5, so that's where we're going to start. But of course, the one thing I want to keep in mind is that we need to look at the Class Connect write-up questions so we can answer those as we move along. So the write-ups, by now you should know the write-ups, you copy all of this and then paste it into a word processor. Then you type your answers directly below or directly after each of the questions. Once you do that, you do the check your grammar and your spelling and all that. Then you copy and paste into the Dropbox, the appropriate Dropbox. You do not attach a file. Just copy and paste it into the Dropbox. All right, take a look at this. So in section 5, difference between a pie chart and a bar chart. What is the usefulness of a stacked column chart? So let's just think of those two things first. So now we're getting to learn a little bit more about charting. Now the last section, or sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 got you working with Excel, and you created a chart in project 2. Now we're looking at more types of charts. So in this section, we're going to look at different types of chart and figure out the appropriate charts for different jobs, and then how to format charts in Excel. So here's a pie chart. So a pie chart is a comparison between different slices or sections of data. So I can do a pie chart for all the students that I have, and I can have pie slices for 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, 12th graders, and then it would show in the pie chart. Or like this is survey data on a pie chart. So a pie chart takes 100% of the information and breaks it down into little sections. And then there's a bar chart. Well, a bar chart represents different values. So a bar chart compares values. So that's why it's different from a pie chart. So in a bar chart, you can see that the data is actually separate from other data in the bar chart. Whereas a pie chart, the data is all related to one another. So this one just happens to be a bar chart that shows a family's gas bill and then their electric bill for all the months. So one thing I could tell from this is that they probably live in an area that's cold in the winter because their gas bill goes higher because they probably have gas heat. In the summer, their electric bill is higher because they probably have electric air conditioning. So you can kind of think about those types of things. And actually, it says right up here, it actually says it in that too. So anyway, move along with this. So that's the difference between a pie chart and a bar chart. So make sure you explain that well when you do your write-up. Now in making charts, something I want to share with you, you want to make sure you watch these presentations. So this presentation is showing how you put in information, and you can see what she does. So she's fixing the data first, then she goes up. I'm going to go ahead and she's using what's called the chart wizard. I'm going to hit pause on that. She uses the chart wizard that's at the top of her screen because of the version of Microsoft she has. You may have a different version, so you're going to have to maybe do a little bit of research to find out how to do charting in your version of Microsoft or in OpenOffice, because I can't create demonstrations for every different version that there is. So anyway, in creating the chart, I'll let this play a little bit more. So you can see that then you would choose would be what data you want to use. So you can see how she's doing that. And there's your sample chart. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of this, but that just demonstrates to you how to do the charts. The thing about charts, you always want to make sure charts have titles and then axis labels. I'm going to get out of that. Now making other types of charts. Now this demonstration, I want you to go ahead and read this or watch this because it talks about the use of a stacked column chart. So make sure you watch this because the one question I have, if I go back to the write-up, the usefulness of a stacked column chart. So what is the usefulness of a stacked column chart? So make sure you watch this presentation and it talks about the usefulness of a stacked column chart. And next, histograms. Now histogram, you can see, has to deal with frequency data over intervals. So this one, it happens to have, they did a survey of, actually this is kind of weird, enrollment in a class. I have no idea what kind of class would have 10-year-olds in it and 40-year-old people over 40. That's kind of odd, but anyway, this could also be, like I could do a histogram of my 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, just as I talked about before in a pie chart. So a histogram is another way to show the same information that a pie chart would show. So that's what a histogram is. You can see how it shows the data. So if I go back to the Class Connect write-up, for answers for 3 and 4, give an example of a set of data that would be best shown through a histogram. Do not give me the one that is used in a lesson. So don't talk about students in a class or students in a school or anything like that. Think about something else for a histogram, for histogram sample. And that's the answers to 3 and 4. Now number 5, how's data in a Pareto chart organized? And 4 things to keep in mind when formatting charts. We'll keep those in mind. So anyway, that's the histogram and how you would use that. The Pareto chart is a bar chart, but you can see that it's set up so the values go from greatest to smallest. And this would be like if you took people's opinions of something. Like this one happened to be, this was a survey on the reasons people would bike to work. Well, almost 50% said for their health. 25% said because of the cost of gas. 5% said to relieve traffic stress, etc. So you can see how Pareto chart can be used. So it shows so it gives the numbers of responses or the values for different components of a survey. Let's go back to the write-up, see what that question said. The question says, but then how is data in it organized? Well, we just looked at that, right? Didn't we? How it's organized right here, they're arranged in descending order, so from biggest to smallest. So that's your answer to that. So you can see how they are arranged from biggest to smallest. Okay, next, some things to keep in mind for charting. And please don't just copy and paste this down, because what I say, the question says, what are 4 things to keep in mind? They use color would not be an appropriate grammatical answer. So you'd say the 4 things to keep in mind are: charts use colors. Charts are easy to read. Charts, it's a good thing to avoid 3D and charts and unnecessary clutter on charts. And finally, you don't want to have redundant, meaning duplicated, titles and legends. So those would be your answers to that. And here's a little, you can do a test on here to see what you know about charting. So in this section, we looked at pie charts, vertical, horizontal bar charts, stack charts, Paretos, and histograms. Now the work for this one. In the work for this, you're going to use the work that you did from Unit 6, Assignment 2, or Unit 6, Project 2, maybe you called it that, and that was the gas price comparison. So you're going to open that chart, and then you're going to add to that, you're going to add a vertical column chart, a horizontal bar chart with the same data, and put all of them in your chart. Then you're going to survey some people to find out which chart they like best, and you're going to put your survey data in a pie chart. So I'm going to show you an example of what this work would look like when you finished it. So when I look at that, that's not the one, that was the original one. So here's what it would look like when you finish this. You can see we have our original one, which is our original table here. Then we had our original chart here from Project 2. And then I made a horizontal bar chart, and I made a vertical bar chart, column chart, or bar chart it's also called. Then finally, you can see that I put the vote columns right here, and I made a pie chart showing the votes, and this is what's called an exploded pie chart. So that's what Project 3 will look like, again using the data that you had from Project 2. This is what Project 3 would look like. So we end up with a bunch of different charts on there. So that should lead you into getting that done correctly. So that's, and you'll save this one, save it as Unit 6, Project 3. Take the number sign out of there when you save it. So just call it Unit 6, Project 3. Then you'll know exactly what it is. Okay, that's, go back to the write-up and make sure we answered all those questions. Yes, we did. We answered all of those questions. So now we're moving on to Section 6. In Section 6, implementation tools, and give 3 examples, design tools, and give 3 examples. So now we're moving into Section 6. And in Section 6, we're just talking about planning, essentially, and planning your work with whether using spreadsheets, PowerPoint, Word, whatever it happens to be. So you're going to analyze the problem, determine which tool is most appropriate, select appropriate applications for the problem that you have. Now there are 2 different things that you do when you start to do work with technology. Is you have a design part and an implementation part. And you notice that there are 2 different tools. So the implementation tool, this is anything that's an extension of your hand, like a pencil. So if I'm an artist and I'm drawing, the pencil is my implementation tool. If I'm typing at a keyboard, the keyboard is my implementation tool. If I'm using a mouse, the mouse is my implementation tool. So anything that's an extension of your hand onto your computer screen or onto a piece of paper, whatever it is, that's your implementation tool. But then the design tool is what helps you plan, explain, or evaluate your ideas. So design tools could be a PowerPoint, a video, a website, an animation, whatever. Some other design tools: storyboard, idea web, outline, sketch, or drawing. So those are the answers to that Class Connect write-up question. Difference between a design and actually, there's 2 questions on the Class Connect write-up for that. Now, outlines are a great way to, if you have a complex presentation or a complex paper, outlines are a great way to get your ideas together when you have complex information that you're dealing with. And we can look at an example of an outline. So you can see here that this person is probably going to do a presentation or write a paper about exercise. So they broke it down into outline form. So then when they go, like when they do this outline, so if they're doing a presentation, this might be 1 slide. This might be slide number 2. This might be slide number 3, etc. Or if they're writing this in a word processor document, this would be paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. So outlining when you have a complex problem is really a good thing to do. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up. So what is the technique you can use to plan presentations and documents? Outlining, right? And we're just about finished with this, so hang in there. Now, some other tools that you can use: storyboards are really useful. Storyboards is essentially a visual outline or visual play-by-play of a story. So if you're writing a story, you would have a storyboard that would say the first scene, the second scene, the third scene, and you would draw that storyboard. You would draw your characters, your background, things like that. So storyboarding is a visual way to outline what you're trying to get across, or to outline your document or the tool you're creating. Lots of people use storyboarding for websites, as it says here, because a website would have your home page and then subsequent pages or other pages, so they storyboard it so they know exactly how all the pages fit together and what those pages are going to look like. So a storyboard is a visual outline of the project that you're trying to create. A few other tools that you could use: sketches. Of course, if you're an artist, if you want to do a nice drawing, then you would do a pencil sketch first, just get the basic ideas of what you're going to be drawing, then ultimately you'd end up with your final draft. So sketching, rough draft sketches are a tool that you have, a design tool, right? Then other things with technology: scanners, of course, can be really useful as you're using technology. You can use a scanner to scan something that you then want to use in a presentation or use in a project, whatever it happens to be. So using technology like that. Of course, these days you can use a digital camera to take a picture of something, and then you can import it into a project that you have. So different things you can do. So in summary, a builder just doesn't start to build a house by buying wood and starting to saw and drill and hammer. You have to plan it. So you use design tools. We looked at outlines and storyboards, and we talked about sketches. The discussion you're not going to do, because I've embedded the essentially parts of this discussion into the Class Connect write-up, so you skip the discussion, and the assignment for the week says to skip it. So all the review. So this is a review for the quiz. These are some of the things that might be on the exam for the unit, so make sure you know those things. Then finally, you have the Unit 6 exam, and please remember, right over here on the left, I have what's called an exam preview, and that exam preview will really help you on the exam, because I do not let you redo exams. So use the exam preview to help you out, because the grade you get on the exam the first time, that's the grade that you get. So let's just revisit the Class Connect write-up to make sure we answered everything. I explained how storyboard is different from a regular outline. I think I discussed storyboard enough, so we answered all of these. So you are ready to go. So this week's work, probably take you about a half an hour to get this write-up done, because it's going to be about a 20-minute recording. So half an hour to get this write-up done. Might take you about, if I go to project 3 right here, might take you about a half an hour to do that project 3 work. And remember, on that project 3, You take project 2 from last week and you add 2 different presentations or 2 different charts to it. And then you add also to that same application, you create a chart having people vote on which of these charts they think is best. So this project 3 should go fairly fast for you, and then finally the exam should go pretty fast. So you can probably do this week's work in fewer than 2 hours. Okay, I look forward to your work coming in, and thanks for watching. Bye.